Okay, we are now started. First of all, I want to welcome everybody here, and I really appreciate you joining us today. And to give you a little background of what this webinar is all about, many people have expressed to me in face-to-face meetings and telephone calls, and it's been in a lot of the coaching calls I do, the difficulty they're having in getting their team members bought into using virtual training. They've bought platform, they subscribe to it. It may be our platform, it may be another. This is not a sales presentation day for the CBC Basecamp. This is a way that we want to share with people how to use online virtual education in this day and time. To give you an example, I just got back from a 3-day teaching expedition into another part, into the northeastern United States. That has a pretty high cost because they've got to have the instructor come in. And when we do on-site education, it's an expensive proposition. This is one of the advantages of virtual. It gives you access to training on a 24/7 basis, anywhere you have a device and anywhere you have internet access. So I'm going to call on one of my presenters. He's not on cam because he's doing it from his phone, and he's got a flight to catch at 3:25. So if there's any questions, we'll ask him while he's on here. So what I put here, if you have questions to keep this thing from going wild with a bunch of microphones on, text me the question and I will repeat the question. And I see another one of our presenters just came on too. So you're going to get a presentation today from a multitude of users, of successful users, and you're also going to get some information about behavior patterns from Cheryl from a DISC assessment and the type of people that will be taking this and how you can get them to buy in, looking at it from the psychological method. So Bart, I'm gonna recognize with you, you're very successful with this. And I'll tell people before they go that Bart uses 2 platforms, which is not a problem. It's just like using multiple books or other things. So Bart, take off and go and tell them what works for you, sir.
Well, I tell you what has been working for me, Jerry. And first of all, thanks for working with my schedule. I'm a little bit tight on that today, and I'm wheels up in literally 29 minutes. But I wanted to let everybody know that what we've been doing, we've been modifying, playing with everything, and just trying to, I guess, get a handle on what works the best with our online training. And the thing that we've come to realize over the past year and a half to I guess 2 years where we've been working with everything is as an employer or as a team leader or as I guess the captain or captainess of the ship, I think the first thing someone's got to realize to make virtual training work is they have to have some written goals down, and they have to be steering the ship. It's like anything else. People look for a leader in doing something. One of the things that we also found was the fact that once we made the decision that we were going to roll this out, we jumped in both feet. We've made some mistakes along the way, but we found that we definitely you need to pay your employees to train. And what we've done is we've instituted basically a completely separate pay system than their hourly or their commission, whatever scale or schedule they're on. And we treat virtual training or online training completely different. We pay them at their normal overtime rate, and we pay per video hour on any training that they do. And it's not just willy-nilly training. I have a specific learning path that I start people on, whether they're in our office team or in our field team. But they are held to that path. They cannot deviate from that path. And they have deadlines that they have to complete the different courses through that learning path. They have to complete by the deadline. With the overtime pay, that solves the deal. That solves I guess the thing that's brought up of well, I go home and I've got other stuff, and I'd be working for you anyway, and it'd be overtime hours. Okay, situation solved. The other thing we do, and that's on the field team, and that's a little bit on the office team as well when they first get started. But on the office team, what they do is the people in the office, they actually, the first hour of every day until they get through the learning path and then are assigned other classes, the first hour of their day is training. It's online, it's at their workstation, it's with a set of headphones on, with the telephone off. They actually come in at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we don't actually open till 9. So that first hour, they're either in a team meeting with their other team members, or they are on the phone or on one of the platforms. So they don't deal with much of the overtime stuff as far as the overtime bonus pay. The thing that we do also with the platforms is, if a class or a module or whatever it is only, let's say it's a PowerPoint that's non-narrated, or even if it is narrated, but you have to click. In other words, it doesn't run by itself. Then that time is actually not paid by the video hour. That's paid by the credit hour on there. And the reason we do that is because people read and comprehend at different rates. So to make it to a point to where we have something that is measurable that we can benchmark against, that's the way we handle that. So that's been one of the biggest things, is just that we have instituted virtual training on a morning by morning basis. We actually started that about a week ago, and the thing I found out with the small trainings, the little 5 to 7 minute deals, is the fact that I was under the misconception that I have two different teams in the field. I have kind of an install repair masonry team, and then I have service techs team. And I thought that it really needed to be one or the other, and they wouldn't benefit by seeing what the other team should really be seeing. But I was wrong and found out that there is learning happening from there too. But that goes back to instituting that as part of our educational culture. When I started in 1979, and I'm sure everybody that was back in the dark ages with me back then, they would agree that the goal, the pinnacle of the industry, was actually to be certified. And now we have changed that culture in our company to where we say certification is the first step. And that's been one of the biggest paradigm shifts in our business, is getting away from, chasing the CEUs. The CEUs, that's a non-issue. If you're training all the time, you're going to blow through that without any issues. So I guess it's a culture shift. It's paying your team when they should be paid because they are working for you. And here's some feedback that I got from another company that said, well, geez, won't that cost a bunch? And I said, I would rather pay all that overtime pay and sort them out quickly and get them off my team if they don't belong, rather than just make it a long, suffering process. So as a business owner, as a team leader, as a manager, or whatever, I think my main points on this are: you have to get the culture set to where it's a culture of education. You have to understand that you got to pay your people when they're working for you, because they are working for you at that point. And you just have to basically, once you commit to it, you can't step away from it, because that does a lot of damage within your culture.
Okay, so if anybody has questions for Bart, if you will text them to me. Bart, I'm going to pull out what I made notes as you talked about. Number one, you consider certification as first step now, completely different than what we did years ago. Number two, you've developed a system of tracking, measurement, and accountability. You have set up learning paths, and for people to understand that, when you've got your learning path set up, they have to take the classes in the order that you assign them, and they can't get to the second class till they complete the first class. And then just in the last couple of weeks, you've now learned how to apply the daily training tidbits, which were kind of foreign to you, and now you're seeing the value of having this in the combined training. Does that kind of say everything you just said?
It does, and here's what we did to really make the training tidbits work: is I preview them before, And I basically have a little outline of the name of the training tidbit, some keywords from there, and how it applies to our team. And then at the end of the training tidbit, what I'll do is I ask for feedback or takeaways from my team out in the field. And so they're giving me feedback, and sometimes they see stuff in the tidbits that I didn't necessarily pick up on. So it's really interesting, and it kind of goes back to their disc profiles that we've done on all the team as well. Is there's different guys pick up different stuff in there, so that's been a pretty valuable deal, and it's really paying off.
Okay, brother. Well, Mart, I appreciate it. Go catch your plane. I know Southwest is not going to hold the plane for you, brother. I appreciate you being here. If anybody has questions for Bart, like I said, he was one of the first people I saw developing a successful virtual user program in his company. Now, Brandy, you paused. Did you go away? You're
I'm
back.
still here.
Okay, so now I'm going to ask Brandy to give you what's working for her, and she's going to share with you a process we've been playing with and utilizing that she's going to tell you all about, which has a lot of excitement to it, and it's also a form of compensation. So Brandy, let's tell them how Flues Brothers does this.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Hear you fine. You're coming through
Perfect.
loud clear.
So we do what's called gamification, and this is something that we've been doing for years and years with many things in our company, even before virtual learning became a thing. But so we found that our employees really respond. We have very competitive employees, and so we found that they really respond, and they're very young. They love games, and so gamification is something that we do with the platform. For example, right now we have a contest going on that will be ending in June where they can win a Nintendo Switch. Basically, we have a box. I should have brought a picture of it. We have a box that you can get tickets for every hour of classes you watch. Anything over 8 hours, you actually start to earn triple the tickets. Put your name on the ticket, put it in the box. And then in June, we will be having a drawing for the Nintendo Switch. The Nintendo Switch just came about when I asked them how many of them had those gaming systems, if they liked them. I have a teenage son who's not far from some of their ages, so I can kind of base it up off of that. But so gamification is kind of where it's at in our company. And then everybody gets a chance. For us, the girls, kind of like Bart, they have opportunities to watch the courses within their office time. The technicians, a lot of times, it's how they will fill time if they get to a house and the customer, they're waiting on the customer to arrive. Oftentimes we'll have customers that have a 2 to 4 arrival window, but the customer says, I can't be there till 3. So they'll get there, do their exterior inspection, and they still got 20 minutes to burn. So they'll go ahead and hop on and do a class in that 20 minutes or get as much of a class done as they can. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. It did great. So gamification, and so in the world of coaching and speaking, gamification is something I first heard about from one of my coaches, Jeffrey Gittimer. And Jeffrey was one of the first people utilizing virtual training, where I first was exposed to it in 2012. And he feels like this is the next avenue of training sales staffs and other things, is turning it into gamification. So if anybody has questions for Brandy, like say, text them to me, I'll ask them later. But Brandy's got a system that's working for her. So again, this is what this is all about today. We want to share with you the methods that people work. Now, next, I'm going to call on Julie, because Julie's company has developed some really astounding programs, and she's going to share with you, because actually back about February or March, Julie and Mark, her husband, came down here. We spent a day together. We called an annual planning meeting, and we spent a lot of time putting together a system that will work. So Julie, would you share with people your system of what's working at Chesapeake Chimney and what we're trying to do there?
I'm sure. Can you hear me?
Hear you fine. Yep.
So like Jerry said, we just recently started this program. We thought for a long time how we could do this and manage it for getting our team members to be bought into this training. We do things a little differently. We do have incentives, and it is kind of a gamification plan. We actually allow 2 hours a week for our team members to sit in the office and do training. I assign them 2 hours, usually in the morning. We find the morning hours are better before they actually leave for their jobs. 2 hours a week, 8 hours a month. Oftentimes we assign specific training. So if we see that a technician is having issues, say with their competence in talking to a customer or products that they need to, be more educated on, we assign specific training for those hours each week. Like Bart said, you have to be bought into this. It has to start from the top. Your team leader, your manager has to, make this a priority. So that's really where we are right now, making it a priority that the techs are focused for that session every week and doing their training. So it might be 1 hour today, it might be 1 hour on Friday morning. Any hours over their 8 hours that they do in a month, we have awards or incentives. So 3 hours over their 8 hours, they can select from a gift card, they can select from cash, they can select time off. They do those 3 hours on their own time. They can do it at home. They can do it while they're waiting for a customer to arrive to a job. If they've got a lag in the day where they're, don't have anything to do, they can do training. It all counts as that 3 hours extra. So in the month of February, we had one tech who did over the 8 hours. He selected the cash. March, we had one tech who did over his 8 hours. He again selected the cash, and then the other tech did 6 hours, so he got $100. So we do 50 hours for every 3 hours that you do over and above. It seems to be working. I think we have to tweak it some. I think that there are certain times or certain weeks that they can't do the 2 hours, so we cut it back to an hour. For instance, we have to be flexible. We have found that we have to be flexible. We are down a tech right now because of some health issues, so that has kind of rearranged our schedule. So I've cut that back to 1 hour a week, but they still have the incentive. If they do 3 hours over for the month, they still get the awards. Now, they are not in a competition with each other. It's more of an incentive for them to do it on their own to get their training in, and then they can, earn those rewards. Does that help you?
Sounds great, Julie. So what I'm hearing here is you've developed a system, there's compensation, there's some gamification also. I think we need to add to this that in this process, we also did a SWAT meeting. We've done one each year at your company with everybody. And what we do is this is part of the buy-in process. In a SWAT meeting, we go over the strengths, we go over the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats. So in the SWAT meeting, everyone in the company is able to tell us what they see as what the strengths are, what the weaknesses. And in this, they come to realize that becoming a higher educated person, better trained, is where that's going to add to the strength. So how much does culture play into this, Julie? Because you've actually went through culture exercises. Carter and Taylor have went there and done a culture workshop with you last year. So is culture part of this? Is that part of the buy-in process?
Oh, absolutely. One of our core values is to become better educated so that we can educate our customers better. That's a very important factor in the culture here. The other thing I wanted to add to that I forgot about was that we not only give them credit for training hours on the platform, but training hours that they do for like product training or any other type of training. If we have somebody come in, like recently we had someone come in from Saver Systems and do a little workshop on a Saturday. So they got 4 hours credit towards their training. They have a log sheet that they use that's hanging up in the training room. Every time they log in to do training, they write down what the training is that they did and the times that they did it. So they kind of I'm trying to get them to self-monitor themselves so that they are held, they they take ownership of their training, rather than, demanding them. I mean, we guide them, we guide them and tell them, hey, I think you would benefit from this training. I've assigned it on your platform, or go to this webpage and look at this product and look at the videos. So it's kind of all inclusive.
Yeah.
But we're trying to get them to take ownership of their training, to make themselves better, and then they will make the company better.
Okay, Julie, when you interview a new person, one of the things you're doing is telling them that we have this ability to train you and be successful. Do you remember what one of your employees said when you showed him the platform and the tool that you were going to give him to be successful? Do you remember his words?
Yeah, so he was very impressed, and he loved the idea of it, being a virtual platform like that. He compared it to being in college, because he was taking classes at the community college, and he still is. And of course, we all know that's how colleges are doing it now. You do a lot of online not training, but classes, and it's very similar to that. So he was very, accepting of the platform, and still is. I find that you would think that the older ones maybe wouldn't take to it as much as the younger ones, but we have an older gentleman in the company. He's in his mid-50s, and he likes to go onto the platform and do training. So he had no problem using it, and he enjoys it.
Yeah. So that's just showing you. But it is, I just want to put this forward. You have to maintain this culture as the leader, correct, Julie? This is not something you just hang on the wall and say, go do it. This has taken ongoing effort on your part as the leader of the company to keep this going, to hold the accountability, and to keep bringing it up to make this change. Would you agree with that?
Yes, you do. You have to make it a priority, I think. When we first started this in February, so we've only been doing this a few months, but when we started in February, I assigned, the first week, assigned them their 2 hours per week. And next thing you know, they're taken off the calendar and put on jobs. And I'm like, well, what's going on here? Well, we had to have a little upper management meeting and make it a priority. So I think it definitely, the managers of the company, the owners of the company have to really make this a priority. And if they do, then that will filter down to your team members, and it will be a priority for them as well.
Great, Julie. I appreciate this. And like I said, if you have questions for Julie or for Brandy, or then Bart's gone, so it's too late for him now. But if you have questions, text them to me, and then I'll repeat the question out to everybody. Brandy, you're raising your stick. You got something?
That's my hand, ink pen hand. Well, I just wanted to, for the audience, I wanted to point out something that Julie said that I think is really important. When they hit over their hours and they get that extra prize, they have multiple prizes to pick from. And I think that's important, because what we know is everybody is not motivated by the same thing. So some people are motivated by the money, some people are motivated by the gift card, some people are motivated by time off, but that can be very different for each person in the company. So I think she just hit on a really good point there when she said that they have ones that they can choose from.
That's good. So anyway, as we went through this, one of the things about 2 weeks ago, Taylor did one of his live videos, and it was all about training. And after I saw that, I'd already set this webinar up, and I sent Taylor a note right away, said, hey man, I'm doing a webinar on this day, can you join? Because he put forth some really great things as far as what they're doing. Now Taylor's running, if you don't, everybody probably knows this is Taylor Hill, Spark Marketer. They're running a marketing company. So in this, they've got to have people that are highly trained. And I would say that website development and working with Google and all these other electronic or things that are constantly changing. So it is a constantly ongoing training mode. So Taylor, please share your thoughts on how you get buy-in with the team at Spark Marketer. Can't hear you.
One of the things, sorry, I'm so used to muting myself because I'm in the office. Everybody's running around. So one of the things I think that's really important, and Julie touched on this, is as the leader of the team, you have to set the precedent of what's important and what's not. So when somebody starts here, the very first thing they do is they get online. We have all of our training online. I mean, it is just the way we do it. So there's no other option. You can't sit down with somebody and somebody walk them through the situation, you know, whatever they're doing. This is how we train. And so I think sometimes people give options and somebody will say, well, I would rather work with someone one-on-one. And I tell people you can't do that because now you're taking somebody else and you're cutting down on their productivity. So you need to go through the system first, but we also partner them up with people that if they have questions, that they can ask somebody a question. So I don't want them to feel like they're in a vacuum, but they've got to do it in a way that's very respectful and that doesn't impede on that person's time. And so we set these things up prior to. So does that make sense?
Mhm.
What I'm saying? But it's just, there's just no option. I mean, that's what we do. It's just part of what we do. Ongoing training, we have sometimes 2 hours a week, sometimes it's 8 hours a week, just depending on what's going on. Because like you said, in our world, it can get crazy sometimes. All of our training, all the web stuff, Facebook stuff, ad stuff, the whole 9 yards is all virtual training. So most of these guys have been to college and they're saying the same thing. It's very much the same as what they're doing in college right now. So they're very well versed in learning through that. I think the other thing that we do that may be a little bit different than some of the things that you guys do is we have things that we do as a company. For instance, we just read a book as a company. And we gave ourselves well, I've got people here that are dyslexic, have a tough time reading, so we gave a long time to read the book. But we actually got together for 30 minutes every 2 weeks and just discussed the parts of the book that everybody had read. And this particular book deals with having tough conversations. And so we kind of have a book club, if you will. And some of the guys we paid for Audible so they could actually listen to it. They had a tough time reading. But you have to go, I think, the extra mile if you're wanting your people to learn and to do the things and come together in a way that is both culturally and work related. You have to pay them to do it. I've never asked anybody to do work that we didn't pay them for, period. You have to either set aside the time during their workday or give them overtime, as Bart did, or gamify it so they're getting some kind of a reward like Brandy and Julie are doing. I think that asking somebody on your dime to do something that you want them to do in this day and age is not looked upon as being a good steward and an employer.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I heard when virtual training first launched. I heard statements, well, you can just make people go home and do this. They can do it at night. They can do it on the weekends. They got to do this on their own time. But the reality is, I want Brandy to touch on that a minute. And Brandy, I have a question for you that came from the field. One person asked, would you please ask Brandy if she pays her employees for time on the platform as well as the gamification? If she told us that, I totally missed it.
Yes, sorry that I didn't clarify that. Yes, so most of my employees, honestly, I do have some that will do it at night from home, but most of my employees, as I said, we're doing it. So we're in Kansas, so we have like rainy days where we get stuck at the shop. We're having tornadoes right now. Or we have like time in between the day built in where they get to that job and there's like 20 minutes, 30 minutes of downtime. So they are utilizing their time then. So we really don't like any wasted minutes in the day. So for my company, they are usually on the clock when they are doing it. I mean, they're always on the clock, but it's usually happening within their regular work schedule. It's not something that they're doing in the evening or the weekends. Now they can if they choose to, but it's definitely not something that we require.
Okay, so the other side is on our Brandy, you're the human resources side of CVC Success Group. So what's the legalities from your interpretation of requiring people to take virtual training on their own time?
If it's required, you have to pay for it. If it's optional, then you don't have to pay for it. But if you are requiring it, if it's something that they have to do, either to progress in their job or because you're saying this is an expectation, then it has to be paid for.
Okay, good. So that's one of the places that Brandy brings us a pile of expertise. It was like earlier today, she saw a Facebook group and sent myself and Cheryl, and it was a question to us, what's illegal in this particular post for a new employee? And there was a violation of federal guidelines. That's some of the value that Brandy brings to our clients, being able to advise them on these things. Okay, Taylor, appreciate it. So let me ask you this, Taylor. When people come to work in your world, and when I say your world, you understand I'm talking about you're into website development, you're into a little bit different than a blue collar. Do people expect this to be part of the job, or is this something that you have to reinforce like we would to your new hires?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I've been doing virtual training since 2004 and in the mortgage business and financial business. So when we started our company, that was the very first thing I looked for, is a place that I wouldn't have to sit with somebody. People don't realize how much time it takes and the productivity it brings away from your business if a person has to be the person to sit down and actually guide and train another person. Now, I understand going out on a blue collar job and doing you have to do some of that, yes. But in the beginning, to get people familiar with something, it's very time consuming for me to do that. So finding a place where I could sit a person in front of a computer and let that computer give the background and the foundation, if you will, and then work with them if there are questions and how to actually physically do something and what to click and where to go. Yeah, we do that as part of the training, but the whole foundational piece, which I think is so important with any business. I don't care what business it is. You have to have a good foundation. So to have that and to be able to do that virtually where it doesn't take another employee to me is a no-brainer. It just is.
Yeah, see, part of this is, and what we've stressed on our particular Basecamp platform is the ability for the client to build their own proprietary training, such as Brandy's company. Brandy Olivia has uploaded a pile of what we're going to call proprietary training that no one else can see unless Brandy hits the wrong button and sends it across the airwaves.
Which some of you've seen.
Yeah, if you've ever received a Flues Brothers, it's because Brandy hit a little key in there she's not supposed to hit. So we had to restrict Brandy from her key pushing just a little bit there. But anyway, Brandy, you have developed all kinds of things on the proprietary side. Can you go in just a little bit of detail what's involved? And also, you're not doing this. You have a team member you've assigned to run this platform, right?
Yeah, because if I do it, then everybody in the world gets it. so Olivia in my office, yeah, she is in charge. That's kind of her love. That's kind of her specialty is education. So she is in charge of our platform for us. And just like Taylor said, virtual training for me was nothing new. I came from that in the nursing world. The great thing, the easy thing about the CVC Basecamp is you guys make it so easy for us because there is that proprietary side. So we can then take any internal testing, internal videos, internal training, and upload them right to the proprietary side. So that way, when I bring on a new employee, for example, and I want to show them how to do the alarm, we make a video for that. It can live in the proprietary side and it's right there. My new hires have tests that they have to complete within their first test, 12 weeks. They can live right there on the proprietary side. It used to be we would hand them like paper that they had to fill it out and then we'd grade it and then we'd hand it back for them to correct. correct it. Now it lives right there in CDC Basecamp. It's date and time stamped. We can see how long they took on it, when they did it. It grades it for them. So it does the work for us. We put our annual competency training in there, which is what some of you may have received to look at. So our annual competencies that we're asking the technicians in the office to check off on each year, we put it right in there, say this is your deadline to get your competencies done, and attach a little quiz to it. We can make up little quizzes and tests right there. And again, it's there, it's date and time stamped. It also serves as your electronic signature. If we were to go through an OSHA audit, for example, any of our safety training, proprietary training in there, we can just show them the platform and right there it is. And they have the proof of that they've done it, they've done the training, they've signed off on it.
That's great. Now, one of the things is the mindset. And one of the things is, my opinion, the behavior pattern of the person. Some people accept change easier. Some people are easier to move. So what Cheryl's going to speak to now, Cheryl, for those that do not know her, is a certified DISC assessor. That is a behavior assessment of the person's personality. Now, that doesn't mean exactly as they are, because Cheryl and mine DISC match almost identical, but the difference is our values are slightly different when it's divided down. So she can go in there and in different ways that she can explain it. But when you look at it, we are both very dominant personalities. Anybody that knows me and knows Cheryl may be surprised, but our DISC almost match. But as you barrel down into the DISC and deal deeper, Cheryl, tell them the different personality styles and what the challenges are going to have getting these different personalities to buy into this, because I think this is key. You even heard Bart say it. After he did the DISC assessment of his whole team and debriefed, all of a sudden they got an understanding how to move to a higher level. So all yours, sweetie, go.
Well, we all have different personalities. Like Jerry said, ours are a lot alike. Our values are so far apart, it's unreal. But he controls, and I'll explain this a little bit. We're both high Ds, but he controls by demanding and I control by persuasion. So I have a lot more friends, but it works out. That's what works for me. We're all a combination of all the assets of it. In the DISC, there's 4 divisions. It's called the DISC, DISC standing for demanding or your decision possibilities. And the speed that you make your decisions, neither high nor low is bad. A high D is demanding, a low D is agreeable. So having an agreeable person is really good at times. And then your I is your people skills. A very high I is very wide open. They talk to everybody. They talk to the doorknobs. They do all of that. The guy on the bottom of the I is very quiet, so you wouldn't want him in as a salesman. The S is your stability, it's your speed. A high S is a lower speed, they come at life a little bit slower and more methodical. A low, that's an S. A low S comes in highballing, they're in a hurry all the time, they try to get things done. The C is your perfectionism and your cautiousness. If you're a really high C, your pencils are probably laying totally straight on your desk. If you're a low C, you probably can't see your desk. So in amongst all those are different things that are happening. And then on top of that, all of your values, your altruism, your theological, your political, your economical, they're all like a cake mix. They're all intertwined. So even though mine and Jerry's are much alike, they intertwine differently. And I've also gone into a third aspect of it, which tells you what and how you think about, and are you thinking, and how do you come up with the decisions when you're thinking about them. But with taking all this back to the online platform, and getting people to buy in, it's been proven that the first time you hear something, you will retain about 10% of it. And so if you're looking at that 16-hour course and they only keep 10% of it, there's not a high rate going on. The second time you listen to it, you're going to retain probably another 16 to 25%. So that's the good thing about the virtual, is the more times you listen to something, and I think we all know that from just being told things, the 7-time rule, that the more you hear something, the more the memory retains it. And we can't do that as business owners. We can't, like Taylor, we can't sit down and teach you something 7 times. I mean, we're done with you by then. So it works best in our world to have it online where people can go directly to it. Now, as Julie was mentioning, the DISC assessment's not age related either, because I've seen some really high theoreticals. That's the area that shows that you like to train, you like to learn, you like to read. A lot of my high theoreticals are above 50, and they will say they enjoy this kind of relationships, especially if they're a low I and don't want to talk to anybody. They'd rather read it. So as you take the different aspects, it goes that way. But if you've got a business owner that doesn't see the value of it, and it could be in their DISC saying that they just don't believe in training, but if they don't, you can't take that down to your people. Because one of the sayings I've always used is, if you've got a super worker, you can turn him into a supervisor. And I think that's where we all want these. We don't want to keep them in a box. We want them to move on. That's what we're training them for. We're not training them to stay in the same position day after day. We're training them to move up in the world and also up in our company. So with all that being said, if you take their personalities, and that's why I like doing the DISC assessment, because there's a page in there that tells you how the person likes to learn. Is he audio? Is he visual? Are there ways that he likes to teach? There's ways that people like to be talked to. I mean, if I'm standing in front of a crowd and this is how you have people buying in, and your people in your business buying into it, if you've got a high D, you just tell us you really need to learn this. And it's like, we have 2 choices, okay or not. You tell a C that this is going to make their life easier, they'll jump on board. If you take an S and tell them that you can have more time to lay back if you do this. So within the idiosyncrasies of our DISC are the answers of how to train, how to learn. And the way I feel about it is, if the owner doesn't buy in, you're never going to get you're not going to get your employers to buy in either, or employees.
It's great. So again, understanding the assessment. Brandy, how you went through the DISC process. When you went through it, was it amazing what you found out about yourself? Can't hear you.
Sorry. It was crazy how spot on it was. I could not believe it.
Okay. It's almost like someone can look right into you and know your personality and your inner thoughts. It's almost scary. I know in other people to go through it, a lot of, we include it in our analysis and with all our clients now and all that. Brandy, I've got a question for you that came up from the audience, and this involves, compensation and commissioned employees. And this was it. How do you handle time spent on virtual training for commission paid employees, earning more than the minimum required for overtime pay? Should we pay for this training separately, or can it be included in their normal business hours when the schedule is weak? Obviously, still rewarding the accomplishment. So how that, if someone has a commission paid basis, and after you answer, I'm going to give the answers that some other clients are using, okay?
Yeah, so tell me, so this is an employee, they get commission, and then tell me the other part. What was the regular part?
What they're wanting to know, they are commission paid employees, and the person can hear me. If you want to add anything into this text, or I can turn the mic on. This was Trent Simmons that had the question, but he's wanting to know how to compensate his commission paid employees in this. What's your recommendation that you're not having any breaks in the that you're not breaking any rules or violations.
And this is my best guess without researching it. I would think that you would need to pay them an hourly wage for that training then, since they're not getting a commission off of a job, etc. I would think that they would need to be paid whatever their hourly base rate pay is for the training time.
Okay, several clients have done the following, Brandy, and I'm going to give this out as we're talking about compensation. Now, one of the things Bart said, he pays time and a half. I have some clients who are very successful, and they have come up with a bonus program based on each hour or each CEU of the course, to where, just to pull it out as an example, for every CEU you accumulate, you get $20. Would that be something that would work for Trent in this question?
Yeah, I think it could, because basically what you're doing is you're separating out how you pay for the education time. So you're separating that out. For example, when I worked at the hospital, we were paid, even though we had like our hourly wage, we were paid separately out of a separate pot for our education time. And there, I don't recommend doing this. I don't do this with my own company, but there, even your education time wasn't even overtime. It was treated completely separately from your working hours.
Right. So if there's any other questions, let me text them to me. Hang on, I've got one coming in.
Julie, are you looking that answer up for us?
Yeah, I was.
What were you finding?
If I find something, I'll send it.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the persons that's using that program they call it a flat rate bonus program. Okay, Brandy, and this is a client you're working with also. So you're aware that's what they refer this to. It's a flat rate bonus program. I know since he implemented it, we're making a pile of completion certificates because a lot of his people are not certified. So we get them through the check the code boards, just like we do certified people, and we issue them a certificate for attending this class. They're not getting the CUs, but we are rewarding them, and this goes through the office and everything else. I mean, it's like you, Brandy, you believe in your office staff being technically trained as certified chimney sweeps to answer that question when it comes in, where you don't have this office that says, I need someone to call you back. So I want to throw some dollars into this so everybody can understand their value. We're talking about compensating your people to do this and to obtain buy-in. If we put it all to bed, if you're going to get buy-in, you're going to have to compensate your people. But I want to throw some facts and figures at you. In this business, we commonly send people to a class. And about several months ago, I did some study into this and ran the data. And here's the whole thing. If you had a class in the town you live in that was right there in your town, you had no overnight lodging, no plane flights, no rental cars, and you paid $99 to attend this class. When you take the lost income from that day and roll it out, that day probably cost you in the neighborhood of $2,000 to $2,100 per person. And if you break that down further, that breaks down in an 8-hour day to $265.50 to attend a class held in your own town. If you have to transport your people to a remote location, this is going to include plane flights, rental cars, hotels, whatever. Your cost could well be over $3,000 a day when you add downtime into it. And that comes up to a cost of about $375 per hour. So Julie, as you hear these figures and know you got a balanced budget, is it smart for you to pay your people and compensate them for this training? Julie, you just went away on me. So, Brandy, are you still there or did you go away? So I'm losing my panelists out here. I don't know where they're going.
So I'll answer you on that.
I'm still here.
Okay,
Yeah.
Tyler, give me your feeling on that.
So it's kind of the same thing. If you add an extra person that you're also, going to sit down and have that person with or travel with, you end up with even more. And that's what people don't run the numbers of the actual cost of what they're doing. And, this is one of my pet peeves in this industry and others. It's not just the chimney industries. People don't know their numbers. They need to sit down and calculate what the cost of training virtually is against the cost of classroom training. And, even bringing somebody to them I'm sure is expensive. And I don't know what those numbers are, but I'm sure you do, Jerry, when you bring somebody to you and they teach a class. And I know that a lot of people are trying to fill those classes because I see it on Facebook. So you got to run the numbers and figure out what's best for you. But I guarantee you, in productivity and cost, I think virtual training is, again, I'm going to say this, is a no-brainer.
It truly is. So anyway, if anybody else has any questions, send them in. But here's the whole thing. Virtual training, it can, I was asked this question this morning. Jerry, we're spending so much on training this year. He just sent his men to a masonry class. A couple months ago, we sent gas training into the Midwest for his people to take it. He said, my wife said we better start figuring this into the budget. Taylor, what do you say to, because I said, yeah, you better. So is there a training budget in the Spark Marketer budget there?
Absolutely. I mean, one of our, and I'm not going to say it's good or bad, but we have always had a line item of continuing education, training, call it whatever you want. It's always in our budget. And I will tell you, there have been times that my bookkeeper will roll her eyes and go, "Are you kidding? We're doing what? Why are we doing this one?" And I keep telling her every time, I'm like, "Tina, just do it. It's going to pay off. And it may not pay off today, but eventually it will pay off." And it has. Here's the other thing that I think is something, and Brandy, if you could speak on this after me, I'd appreciate that. But I think people underestimate the value of continual education. And because things do change. We have this idea, and in my business, everybody knows things changes online, but I don't care what business you're in. When I was in the mortgage business, things changed. When I was in the financial planner, things changed. In the medical industry, I know that my stepfather, who was a physician, had to take courses every single year on things because things changed. So this idea that we can just do it once, learn it once, and it's all going to be the same is really wrong. We have to keep up with all the different things in our world that are changing. Some of it may be on the technical side, some of it may be on the business side, some of it on the marketing side. But whatever it is, if you're not keeping up with it, you're being left behind.
Yeah, one of my clients that has developed this very successfully just sent me a text. Virtual training is key to success. No doubt a better investment with employee retention. It's always there to redo and to rewatch. Now, let me give you a little deeper. I've been doing training for almost 40 years in this industry. In fact, like I said, I just did training last week. I just returned last night. And here was the thing. The course I presented, Brandy, was my Diagnostics of Masonry Chimneys course. I've been doing this for back into the 90s. It's a continuous redeveloping. I had one student in there. He's attended this course 5 times. 5 times. Now, as I'm going through this course, I even told him when it started, I said, "Man, you ought to be able to come up here and teach this course today." And as we go through this, the amazing thing was I had the question asked, did you just add that? No, it was in there for years. See, and Brandy, you can reinforce this. When we go in front of an audience, and Cheryl, you also, and Taylor, if we talk for an hour, if someone walks out of that room and has retained 20%, and it might be because of my language barrier, it could be whatever, the way I say a word differently, but you guys spread this. Everybody on this camera does presentations. So Brandy, what's your feelings on that about being able to go back and use virtual to retrain and review past learnings?
Well, just like I think one of you guys already brought up, it's just like when you watch a movie and then you watch it for a second and third time, you pick up on stuff that you didn't pick up on the first time, or you see something that you didn't see the first time. And the same thing happens with that training and being able to go back and watch it and relearn it and review it. just like Taylor was saying, one of the great things about this, I remember 20 years ago, we didn't purge smoke chambers. That didn't happen 20 years ago. I remember when it started happening and we started bidding it for customers, and they're like, well, you didn't tell me this last time. Well, that's because the industry has evolved. We now know that flue fires are oftentimes smoke chamber fires. We've evolved. And so we have to keep up on that each and every day. Each and every day, there's new things. We had an example in our own company where one of the manufacturers, it was a thing with a pipe. Jeremy could describe it way better than I'm describing it. But anyway, Jeremy even called the experts in the industry. I'm talking like the experts at the companies that had no idea that this little blip existed in the owner's manual. Neither did we. And that was somebody else that pointed that out. So we have to stay up. We have to stay up with the latest information in order to provide the best possible service to our customers and to be considered the experts in the industry. Because trust me, if you're not on the platform and you're not requiring this of yourself and your employees, there are other people out there that are in your area, and they will be seen as the experts and not you.
Yeah. Taylor,
I want to throw one thing else in, because I think this is really important. For me, the biggest difference between what we do and what you guys do is what y'all do prevents the loss of life. Man, you got to stay up on that stuff. You know, it's like if your police officers or your medical people didn't take this stuff. I mean, you know, my wife and I are in the process of buying a house, and the people were kind of irritated at us because we wanted a chimney inspection. And I said, we're lighting a fire in the middle of this thing. Why wouldn't I want one? But that's somebody that's educated about it, you know, to a certain degree. I can't perform the inspection, but I know how important it is. And so, you know, listening to the Brandy talk about Jeremy and whoever finding a glitch in something, that can be a game changer for somebody's life, for their kids. And so to not take this seriously, to not take training seriously in this industry, I think is very short-sighted. I just think that you cannot get enough training. That's just my opinion. And I'm telling you that as a consumer, not as somebody in the marketing business. I'm telling you that as a consumer that's fixing to have a fireplace, you know, a house with a big fireplace in it. I want to feel that we're safe in that home. So yes, I want a company that trains, period.
Cheryl, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, I'm sitting here and we're all saying the same thing. We're saying that you have to stay current. Yesterday, I spent a full day in a workshop for DISC in Charlotte, and I didn't have to. It was, I wanted to, and I was amazed at how much extra I picked up because it was just re-quantifying what I knew. I knew this, but I was not using some of these little pieces. So, and I'm not a young woman. I'm kind of way more than what Brandy was talking about, the age before. And if I can continually learn, what can we imagine if we don't teach these younger people to keep learning? Is it going to stop? Is the world going to cease to move if these kids don't learn? And with this type of a platform, there's no reason that they can't do it. I mean, my grandson's even looked at it, and he will never ever be a chimney sweep. But it's just not, he's just not geared that way. But the thing is I think we all expect it all done for nothing. And as I did, I had to pay for mine yesterday. There is a payment. Plus I sat in traffic for 4.5 hours going and coming. And I only went to Charlotte, which was 36 minutes from where I'm at right now, but because of Rex. So you add in that time that it cost me to go over there. It would have been great to have had it online. So that's my 2 cents worth. I think online's the way to go. I think there's times when you need the touch and the feel of people, but when you need dedicated education, it's a lot online thing.
Somebody's turned a microphone on somewhere. I don't know. I can't figure out who it is. I'm looking right now. If I could cut that microphone off. I don't know who turned it on, and I don't see nobody with a mic on. So anyway, this is what I said earlier in my class I did live this week. There is what Taylor, every website that you do talks about how great that company is. Am I right?
Yes.
Is there ever a website that says, you know, we're not really well trained, we're kind of run of the mill people, you know, we don't know a whole lot? Do you ever see that?
No. And if I felt like they did, we don't work with them.
Right. So what you're doing is when you write a website, when you help market a company, we're talking about we are presenting ourselves as experts to our customers and our prospects. Am I correct?
Yes.
And what to do that, guys and gals, you got to get people that are dedicated to doing this training. If they're, you know, this is what's excited me about virtual training is there's only so many days in a year that I could be somewhere and sharing what I can train with people. With this method, I can sit here and someone can tell me today, hey, we need a training on this, and I can turn out a daily training tidbit and have it uploaded in 10 minutes. I can't get on a plane that fast. And Brandy, the same way. You've uploaded virtual training in the last week, one on energy drinks that deals with their health. And then today we uploaded one just today about hydration and the health of people. And what I'm seeing is this is getting their people bought in. So what you've got to do is it's going to take the leadership. They have to believe in this process. It's going to take getting your people bought in. And that was the whole purpose of us getting together today to share with you the methods. I hate to tell you this, but if you think your people are going to train on their own time, I got a bridge to sell you, okay? Because it ain't going to happen. So Brandy, you got that ink pen up. You got something to say.
I just wanted to point out, I did post in the chat box. Can everybody see the chat box, Jerry? I did post a link to the FLSA, an article on paying for training time.
Okay, so you did do that. Okay.
It's always showing to organizers and panelists. So Jerry, you'll have to reshare it out.
Okay, so what we'll do, Brandy, let's put that on so everybody knows we have recorded this entire webinar. I'm going to be hanging it on the team leader tips and tactics, and I'll probably put it on my YouTube channel and other things. This was not something to sell our platform today. I want to be real clear about that. In fact, I even gave a personal invitation to an owner of another platform because they shared the same issues, okay? So it's like, hey, this is the leading challenge that we have as educators today is helping our customers get their employees bought in. So the whole purpose of this today was to share with you processes that are working. It's compensation, it is accountability, it is measurement, it's going to be gamification, it's going to be leadership, enforcing that culture, and the leadership believing in the importance that you're going to provide the best to your community. And to do that, you've got to move this education level up to another level, and that's what virtual provides to you. When I was at the National Guild Convention this year, and I looked at companies with 10 people walking around, and in my mind, I'm looking how much money they spent for that process to bring them to that hotel. And when a system like many of them out here, we're talking about pennies a day to be fully equipped and educated in the year 2019. So unless the rest of you guys got something to add, I'm going to go ahead and we'll end this in a minute. So Brandy, you got anything to add before we hang up?
Just the thing, Jerry, that I know Jeremy's told you 100 times in our own company, you know, we can tell our own team members something and it just kind of blows over them. And then you come in as an outside person and tell them it. And it's like, it's the gospel and the Lord has spoken and this is the way it is. And I think that's true of all people. We tend to tune out the own people within our own company. So if they can hear it from somebody else outside the industry or inside the industry, but outside their own company that they consider to be an expert, I think it goes a long way. And then yes, those tidbits that you spoke about that I uploaded this week, those were not, I didn't come up with those. That was somebody on the platform that asked for those tidbits. And whoever that was, I am still working down your list, so more to come. But that's the great thing. If you have an issue, Jerry, I know for one of the clients today, you did a private tidbit for their company for an issue that they were struggling with. So just making sure that you're using the platform to the full advantage, using that proprietary side, requesting things that you specifically want training on. Just use it to the full advantage.
That's it. So, and to quote Jeremy exactly, but not word for word because it's not fit for general, but it makes me so mad to pay you to tell them the same things that I tell them and they listen to you. Is that was more his words, but it was a little more
Yes.
vocal in there, right?
Yes.
So, Cheryl, anything you want to add to this before we end?
Main thing I need to add is each of us have our own behaviorals. So within your behavioral, there is an area that needs to learn. And this is one really great learning way to do it. Much better than sitting through a class all day.
Yeah. Taylor, anything you want to add before we back out of here?
I will second both of you guys because we use the CVI here. It's not the disc, but it's very comparable. And man, if you're not using the disc to really help you put things in place so that your people can learn, you're losing the opportunity on that. And what Brandy said, I don't train anybody here. I go and train at NCSG and tell you guys stuff, but our guys get trained by other professionals, and I do that for a reason because, yeah, Brandy, I'm with you. They don't listen to me either.
So, that's it. First, and I want to thank all the panelists that came on. So you guys know, Julie got hit by a power outage. That's why she went off a while ago.
Oh, no.
She sent me a text. She said before we started, there was a storm coming in, so we had our fingers crossed. So Bart had to get on the flight. He had told me going in he had to leave at 3:25, so that's why we had him first. I want to thank Bart for coming on. Taylor, I really appreciate your input, and Cheryl's always. So our company we are CBC Success Group, and what our mission is to help you turn your business dreams into your business realities. That's what we're all about. Hit us up. Tell us how we can work for you. If we're not working with you, let us know. Let us know who you want to talk to. It's as simple as an email to info@cbcsuccessgroup.com and let us know who you want to talk to. We'll be glad to help you out any way we can. And with that, I want to thank you. It's an honor. It's a privilege. It's a pleasure to be able to share this message with you. We've had a really good turnout here on this today. So we'll be recording this if you want to go back and see it later. And for the people that missed it, we'll be having it up. We'll make it available. So guys, I appreciate it. We'll talk to you next time.